I am Miriam Goldstein. I am 60 years old, and what I am about to tell you has been guarded inside the most successful Jewish families in the world for 3 generations. Not because it is complicated, but because the people who understand it do not talk about it openly. They pass it down at the dinner table. They whisper it at synagogue. They teach it to their children before their children even know what a bank account is. I am a rabbi. I have advised families on money and faith for over 30 years, and in all that time, I have watched hard-working, honest people work themselves into the ground while their wealth went nowhere. And I have also watched certain families, some starting with almost nothing, build wealth that lasted not 1 lifetime, but 3. The difference was not luck. The difference was a ratio, a specific, ancient, Torah-rooted ratio. Today I am going to explain it to you completely. But before I do, type in the comments right now, I accept my wealth. Write it before you hear another word, because what you are about to receive is not just information, it is a framework. And declaring that you are ready to receive it matters more than you think. Let me tell you what this ratio is. There is a man whose name you almost certainly know, Nathan Meyer Rothschild. In the early 1800s, he arrived in England with very little. He did not arrive with a fortune. He arrived with a method, a way of thinking about money that was not taught in any university. It was taught in the Torah, and within 1 generation, he had built one of the most influential financial empires the world had ever seen. His sons continued it. His grandchildren continued it. And the principle at the core of that method was something so simple that when I first explain it, people sometimes think I am joking. 6-to-1. That is the ratio. 6 parts work, 1 part rests. 6 parts deployed, 1 part protected. 6 parts advancing, 1 part held absolutely still. This is not a metaphor. This is a structural financial principle embedded in the Torah, confirmed in the Talmud, and practiced quietly by the families who have held their wealth across centuries of wars, persecutions, and economic collapses. I grew up in New York. My father ran a dry goods store in Brooklyn, the same store his father had built from nothing after arriving in this country. When I was about 14, a man named Mr. Feldman came in. He was a customer, but also a successful investor. He and my father were talking near the counter one afternoon. I was stocking shelves, listening. Mr. Feldman said, "Abraham, do you know why most men fail with money?" My father said no, and Mr. Feldman said, "Because they give every hour of their strength and every dollar of their earnings to the same pile. They never separate what protects them from what works for them." I did not understand it then, but I never forgot it. In Exodus 29, the Torah says, 6 days you shall labor, but the seventh day is a Sabbath. Most people read that as a religious instruction. But here is what the Rothschilds understood that most people do not. The commandment to rest on the seventh is not just spiritual, it is financial architecture. When every dollar you earn immediately goes back into work, into bills, into obligations, you have no protected reserve. You have only a rushing current, and rushing currents erode everything they touch. The 6-to-1 ratio says this: for every $6 you earn, $1 belongs to a category that is untouchable, not invested, not saved for a vacation, protected, set apart, sacred in the most practical sense of that word. I want to tell you about a woman in my congregation. I will call her Leah. She came to me about 12 years ago. She earned a good income. By every outward appearance, she was doing fine. But she sat across from me and said, "Rabbi Miriam, I feel like I am running on a treadmill that is getting faster every year, and I cannot find the off switch." I asked about her finances. Every dollar she earned had a job. Every dollar was deployed. She was 100% active and 0% protected. I said to her, "Leah, you have never given your money a day of rest." She looked at me like I had spoken in a foreign language. And for most people in the modern world, this concept is foreign. We are taught that every dollar must be working at all times, that idle money is lazy money. But that is not wisdom. That is exhaustion dressed up as strategy. The Talmud in Tractate Betzah teaches that the portion set aside for Shabbat is not subtracted from your provision. It is added separately. It is its own category of blessing. The 6-to-1 ratio is not about deprivation. It is about separation, about creating a portion of your money that has a different status than the rest. Here is what I want you to do this week. Take your income and divide it into 7 parts. 6 parts go to your active financial life: bills, investments, savings goals. 1 part goes into what I call your financial Shabbat account, a separate account, not an emergency fund, a protected reserve whose only job is to exist. I know you are thinking you cannot afford it. Leah said the same thing. She came back to me 3 weeks later and said, "I cannot find where the 1/7 comes from." And I said to her, "Leah, that is exactly the problem. It does not come from somewhere. It comes off the top, before your rent, before your utilities, before anything else." She went pale. She did it anyway. Within a year, something had shifted. She told me, "I thought having money sitting still would make me anxious, but it made me calmer. I started making better decisions everywhere else because I was no longer operating from complete depletion. 6 parts working, 1 part resting. That is the first application. The second application of this ratio is about risk, and almost no one talks about it. The 6-to-1 ratio does not only apply to how you hold money, it applies to how you position it. In every generation of Rothschild correspondence, you find the same pattern. For every 6 investments they made, 1 position was what Nathan called the contrary holding, something positioned to increase in value when everything else was collapsing, a philosophical opposite to the prevailing direction. This comes directly from the Torah concept of Shemitah, the sabbatical year in Deuteronomy 15. Every 7th year, the land rested. Debts were released. The economic system reset. This was an acknowledgement that the direction of momentum always reverses. Always. And the family that holds 1 portion positioned for reversal does not get wiped out when the cycle turns. I knew a man in our community, I will call him Benjamin, who ran a successful import business for many years. Every dollar pointed the same direction. When his industry shifted, he lost almost everything in 18 months. He said to me afterward, "I knew the principle, I just did not apply it because things were going so well." Look at your current financial picture. Is everything pointed the same direction? Are all your income streams in the same industry? If yes, 1/7 needs to be repositioned. 6 parts will work the way they always work. 1 part will be held differently. The third application is the one that surprises people most. The 6-to-1 ratio applies to giving. In Genesis 28:22, Jacob makes his famous vow at Bethel. He says, "Of all that you give me, I will surely give 1/10 to you." But almost nobody talks about when he made it. He was running from his brother Esau. He had no home. He was sleeping on the ground with a stone for a pillow. He had nothing. And in that moment of nothing, he committed to give first. The Kabbalists teach that the act of giving opens a tzinor, a pipeline. The giving does not flow downward from your wealth. The giving creates the channel through which the wealth enters. You give first, not because you have enough, but because giving is what creates the condition for enough. I knew a widow in my neighborhood when my children were small. Her name was Ruth. She lived on a modest pension, and people worried about her. But every single month, Ruth gave to tzedakah, sometimes only $20. People would say, "Ruth, you cannot afford to give." And she would say, "I cannot afford not to. When I give, I tell God that I trust Him, and He has never broken His promise to me." Ruth lived to be 93. She never went hungry. She never lost her home. And when she passed, people discovered her savings had grown steadily for decades because she had lived simply, invested patiently, and never stopped giving first. The Talmud in Tractate Ta'anit says, "Aser ta'asher," tithe so that you will become wealthy. In Hebrew, it is a word play. The word for tithe and the word for wealth share the same root. Our sages were not speaking in metaphor. They were stating a financial principle. Give 1/7 of your increase before you do anything else, not from what is left, first. Now let me bring all three together. The first application: protect 1/7 of your income absolutely. Give your money a Shabbat. Let 1 part rest while 6 parts work. The second application: hold 1/7 of your risk in a contrary position, because the direction always reverses, and the family positioned for the reversal does not get wiped out by it. The third application: give 1/7 of your increase before anything else, because the giving is not a subtraction from your wealth. It is the pipeline through which your wealth arrives. 6 parts work, 1 part rests. 6 parts advance, 1 part protects. 6 parts stay, 1 part flows out first. This is not 3 rules. This is 1 rhythm. God built 6 days of work and 1 day of sacred rest into the structure of creation. The Rothschilds did not invent anything. They observed it. They applied it, and they passed it down. Money that is gripped too tightly suffocates. Money that moves without structure evaporates. Money that follows the 6-to-1 rhythm compounds in ways that defy ordinary logic. You still have time. Whatever season you are in, the rhythm is still available to you. It does not require your past to be perfect. It only requires your next paycheck. If what I shared today touched something real inside you, I want you to do something right now. Type in the comments, "I accept my wealth." Write it with your own hand. Let it be a commitment between you and your future. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. Every week I share principles like these. Wisdom lived quietly by families for generations that nobody puts on the front page. Hit the like button. It helps this teaching reach the people who need it most. And share it. Think of one person who is working hard and getting nowhere. Send this to them. One idea at the right moment can change the direction of an entire life. And if you have a story of your own, there is a form in the description. Fill it out. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham. Blessed are you, Lord, shield of Abraham. The same God who shielded Abraham, who prospered Jacob, who sustained Ruth, that same God sees you right now. 6 parts work, 1 part rests. Trust the ratio and watch what comes next.